Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Learning Garage, a place where we share beautiful tales to help you learn English one word at a time. Today, we have 3 special stories for you. Each one is simple, meaningful, and full of heart. Through these stories, you'll learn new words, practice your listening skills, and enjoy the beauty of storytelling. Let's begin our journey into the world of stories. Are you ready? Let's start. First story: The Weight of Small Choices. In the bustling city of Greywood, where glass skyscrapers stretched toward the sky and streets buzzed with the rhythm of 1,000 lives, there lived a woman named Maya. She was 29 years old, an ordinary face in the crowd, with dark brown hair always tied in a loose bun, a pair of glasses perched on her nose, and a permanent crease between her brows from too much thinking. Maya lived in a one-bedroom apartment on the 14th floor of a high-rise. It wasn't much, just a bed, a sagging couch, and a coffee table that always seemed to be buried in unopened mail, but it was hers. Like so many people in the city, Maya was always busy. Too busy. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a tech company, a job that paid her bills but didn't exactly inspire her. Most days, she spent hours at her desk drafting emails, managing social media accounts, and attending endless Zoom meetings. By the time she got home, her brain felt fried, her back ached, and she was too tired to do anything other than scroll on her phone or watch reruns of TV shows she'd already seen. Still, Maya wasn't unhappy. Not exactly. She had friends she texted now and then, a cat named Toby who greeted her at the door every evening, and dreams she kept folded away in the back of her mind, like an old map she was afraid to unfold. But there was something missing. She felt it late at night, when the city outside grew quiet and she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. A sense of restlessness. A nagging question she couldn't quite answer. Is this it? Is this my life? Maya's mornings were always the same. Her alarm went off at 7 a.m., but she hit snooze until 7:20. She would stumble out of bed, make a cup of coffee, and scroll through Instagram while waiting for her toast to pop up. Sometimes, she'd compare herself to the influencers and old classmates she followed online, the ones posting pictures of dreamy vacations, perfect relationships, and jobs they seemed to love. It made her feel small, like she was failing at something she couldn't quite name. By 8 a.m., Maya was out the door, earbuds in, dodging crowds of people on her walk to the subway. She liked this part of her day, the brief pocket of time when she could lose herself in music or a podcast. But once she was on the crowded train, crammed between strangers with the faint smell of someone's leftover breakfast in the air, her mind would wander. She'd think about all the things she could be doing with her life if she wasn't stuck in this routine. Maybe she'd finally write that book she'd been talking about for years. Maybe she'd move to a quiet town by the sea and start over. Maybe she'd, "Excuse me," someone would say, bumping into her, and the daydream would end. One Wednesday morning, Maya was sitting at her desk, trying to sound cheerful in an email to a client who had sent her a passive-aggressive message about a missed deadline. Her phone buzzed beside her, and she absent-mindedly glanced at the screen. It was an email from an old college friend, Clara. They hadn't spoken in years, but Maya had always admired Clara. She was one of those people who seemed to radiate confidence and energy, always chasing some big, bold idea. Maya opened the email. "Hey Maya, long time no talk. I hope this doesn't feel out of the blue, but I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I remember how much you used to talk about writing back in college. You always had such great ideas. I can still picture that short story you wrote about the girl who could stop time. Anyway, I've started a writing group here in the city. It's super informal, just a few of us meeting once a week to share what we've been working on and give each other feedback. I think you'd be amazing, and I'd love for you to join. Let me know if you're interested. No pressure, of course." Maya stared at the email for a long time. Her first instinct was to delete it. She hadn't written anything in years, not since college, when life had felt full of possibilities and she believed she could actually be a writer. Now, the idea of sharing her work with strangers made her stomach twist. What if she wasn't any good anymore? What if they laughed at her? But there was another part of her, small but insistent, that said, maybe this is exactly what you need. That evening, after reheating leftover pasta and feeding Toby, Maya sat at her laptop, staring at Clara's email. She typed out a reply, deleted it, then typed it again. Finally, she hit send. "Hi Clara, thanks for reaching out. I'm terrified, but I'd love to join." Clara replied almost immediately, sending details about the group's next meeting. Friday night at 7 p.m. at a coffee shop across town. When Friday came, Maya almost didn't go. She told herself she was too tired, that she'd had a long week, that she wasn't ready. But as she sat on her couch, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, she thought about all the times she'd felt stuck, all the nights she'd stayed awake wondering if her life could be different. And so, with a deep breath, she grabbed her bag and left. The coffee shop was warm and bustling, filled with the smell of fresh espresso and the sound of soft chatter. Clara greeted Maya with a bright smile and a hug, introducing her to the rest of the group. An artist named Jada who was working on a graphic novel, a lawyer named Sam who wrote poetry in his free time, and a retiree named Mr. Bennett who was writing a memoir about his childhood in the 1950s. Maya felt nervous at first, but as the evening went on, she found herself relaxing. The group was welcoming, and they weren't perfect, polished writers. They were just people like her, trying to put their thoughts into words. By the time she left that night, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: excitement. She started writing again. At first, it was hard. Her sentences felt clunky, her ideas scattered. But she kept going, chipping away at the rust. She wrote late at night, curled up on her couch with Toby purring beside her. She wrote on the subway, scribbling notes in a small notebook she carried in her bag. Slowly, the words began to flow. As weeks turned into months, the writing group became a regular part of Maya's life. Fridays were no longer just the end of a work week. They were something to look forward to. She began to see her city differently, noticing the details she'd once overlooked. The graffiti on the walls of her subway station, the street performers on the corner, the way the sunlight hit the glass buildings in the morning. These moments found their way into her writing. Other parts of her life began to shift too. She started saying yes to things she'd once avoided. A yoga class her coworker invited her to, a weekend road trip with her old high school friends, an online course on creative writing. She even started waking up earlier, trading her Instagram scrolls for quiet mornings with coffee and a notebook. And while her job didn't change, her attitude toward it did. She began to see it not as a trap, but as a stepping stone, something that gave her stability while she worked toward her dreams. One evening, about a year after joining the writing group, Clara told Maya about a contest for emerging writers. The prize was small, a feature in a local magazine, but Maya hesitated. She still wasn't sure if her work was good enough. But with encouragement from the group, she submitted a short story. A month later, she got an email saying she'd won. The story was published, and for the first time, Maya saw her name in print. It wasn't a bestseller or a breakthrough, but it was enough. Enough to remind her that she had something to say. Enough to remind her that small choices, a single email, a Friday night spent with strangers, a story written on the subway, could change everything. Maya's life didn't transform overnight. She didn't quit her job or move to a seaside town, but she kept writing. She kept dreaming, and slowly, the restlessness that had once haunted her began to fade. Because life wasn't about one big leap, she realized. It was about the small steps, the ones that seemed insignificant in the moment, but, when strung together, became a path that led somewhere new, somewhere better. And Maya, for the first time in years, felt like she was on her way. Second story, The Whispering Forest. In the heart of a small village, nestled between emerald hills, there lived a girl named Marin. She was not like the others in her village. While most people cared for crops and trade, Marin cared for the small, quiet things, the chirping crickets, the shy wildflowers, and the old stories whispered by the wind. She was kind to everyone, even those who didn't deserve it. Her laughter was soft, and her smile made even the grumpiest elders warm like the sun. But Marin had a problem. Her father, the village healer, had grown very sick. He was the only one who knew how to make the special elixir that cured fevers and healed wounds. Without him, the village might suffer, and Marin's heart ached to see him so weak. One evening, as she sat by his bedside, he spoke in a raspy whisper. "Marin, you must go to the Whispering Forest," he said. "Find the Heartstone. It will heal me and give me the strength to teach you all I know. But beware, many have tried to find it and failed." The Whispering Forest was a magical, mysterious place. No one who had entered had ever come back. The trees were said to hum with secrets, and the air was thick with enchantment. But Marin didn't hesitate. She packed a small bag with bread, water, and her father's old compass. She kissed his forehead and set off at dawn. As Marin walked toward the forest, she was joined by an unexpected group of companions. The first was a boy named Tom, her childhood friend. Tom was cheerful and clever, with a knack for fixing things. "You didn't think I'd let you go alone, did you?" he said, slinging a satchel over his shoulder. The second was a stray cat named Willow. She was scruffy, with one ear bent, but her green eyes sparkled with mischief. She trotted alongside them as if she had decided she was part of the journey. The last companion was a mysterious old woman they met at the edge of the forest. She introduced herself as Nissa. Her silver hair shimmered like moonlight, and she carried a staff that glowed faintly at its tip. "The forest is dangerous," Nissa warned. "But you have a kind heart, Marin. That may be the greatest magic of all. I will guide you as far as I can." And so, the four of them ventured into the whispering forest. The forest was like nothing Marin had ever seen. The trees were impossibly tall, their trunks twisting like braided ropes. The leaves shimmered, changing color from emerald to gold to deep indigo. The air was filled with soft whispers, as though the forest itself was alive and watching. At first, the journey was pleasant. Tom told jokes that made Marin laugh, and Willow pounced on glowing insects, batting them with her paws. Nissa showed them which berries were safe to eat and told stories of her own adventures. But soon, the forest grew darker. The trees seemed to close in, and the whispers turned to murmurs of doubt and fear. Shadows danced in the corners of their vision, and strange sounds echoed around them. Then came the first obstacle, a chasm too wide to cross. A rickety old bridge stretched across it, swaying dangerously in the wind. Marin hesitated. "We can do this," Tom said, his voice steady. "I'll go first and make sure it's safe." One by one, they crossed the bridge, holding their breath with every creak of the wood. When they reached the other side, Marin hugged Tom tightly. "You're braver than you think," Nissa said to Marin with a knowing smile. Deeper in the forest, they faced another challenge, a field of thorny vines that writhed like snakes. At the center of the field stood a glowing tree with silver bark. Nissa pointed her staff at it. "The Heartstone lies within that tree," she said. "But the vines will not let you pass unless you prove your worth." "How?" Marin asked. "Show the forest your heart," Nissa replied. Marin stepped forward. The vines hissed and coiled around her ankles, but she didn't flinch. She thought of her father, lying weak in bed. She thought of the villagers who needed him. Then she knelt and placed her hands gently on the nearest vine. "I don't wish to harm you," she said softly. "I only want to help someone I love." The vines stilled. Then, one by one, they unfurled, creating a path to the tree. Marin walked forward and touched the glowing bark. The tree opened, revealing a radiant stone, pulsing with light. She took the Heartstone and turned to her companions, her eyes shining with gratitude. As they left the forest, Nissa suddenly stopped. "This is where I leave you," she said. "Why?" Marin asked. Nissa smiled. "Because I was never meant to leave the forest. I am part of its magic, and it called me to guide you." Marin's heart ached to say goodbye. "Thank you, Nissa. I'll never forget you." Before she disappeared, Nissa touched Marin's forehead. "You have a gift, child. Your kindness has power. Never forget that." When Marin returned to the village, she crushed the Heartstone into a fine powder and mixed it into a tea for her father. Within moments, his strength returned and his color brightened. He hugged Marin tightly, tears in his eyes. The villagers gathered to celebrate, and Marin shared her story. But she left out the part about Nissa. Some things she felt were meant to remain a secret. In the days that followed, Marin began learning her father's healing craft. Tom stayed by her side, always ready with a joke or a helping hand. Willow became the village's favorite cat, curling up in laps and purring loudly. And though Marin never returned to the Whispering Forest, she often felt its magic in her heart, in the rustling of leaves, in the shimmer of sunlight, and in the quiet moments when kindness made the world just a little brighter. And so, Marin's life became a testament to the lessons she had learned, that courage comes from love, that kindness is its own kind of magic, and that even the greatest challenges can be overcome with a little help from friends. The village thrived, and Marin's story became one of its favorite tales, a story of hope, bravery, and the quiet, powerful magic of a kind heart. Third story, the last notification. Emily's phone buzzed on the nightstand, and she reached for it instinctively, her thumb already swiping across the screen before she was fully awake. The clock read 7:30 a.m. Another notification, another email, another day. The message was from her boss. Don't forget the 10 a.m. client presentation. Let's nail this one, team. Emily groaned and let the phone fall back onto her bed. She hadn't even had coffee yet, and already her brain felt full. At 32, Emily lived in the heart of the city, a high-rise apartment surrounded by glass and concrete. On paper, she had it all: a good job as a marketing manager, a modern apartment with a view, and over 1,000 followers on Instagram who liked every sunset photo she posted. But something felt off. Lately, everything felt like a performance. Her job, her social media, her life, it was all for someone else's approval. She rolled out of bed, poured herself a cup of coffee, and opened her laptop. Work from home had been a blessing at first, but now it felt like she never left work. Even on weekends, emails piled up, meetings popped onto her calendar, and deadlines loomed like storm clouds. By 10 a.m., she was on her fourth video call of the week. Everyone's faces were frozen into polite smiles, their home office backgrounds slightly blurry from filters. The client presentation went well enough. Emily had rehearsed it in her head so many times she could have done it in her sleep. When it ended, her boss said, "Great work, Emily," but she barely felt the compliment. It was just noise. Later that evening, Emily opened her fridge and stared blankly at its contents. Half a carton of almond milk, a few wrinkled apples, and a bottle of hot sauce. She sighed and ordered Thai takeout on her phone. As she waited for the food to arrive, she opened Instagram out of habit. A photo popped up from Ethan, her boyfriend of 2 years. Friday night vibes with the crew. The photo showed him laughing with friends at a bar downtown. Emily frowned. They had talked about meeting up tonight, but he hadn't even texted her. She opened their chat, scrolling through their last few messages. Most were short, one-word replies. "Okay, yeah, sure." Conversations that used to be long and thoughtful had dwindled into fragments. She clicked on his profile and stared at his photos. She felt like she was looking at a stranger. Somewhere along the way, their connection had faded, replaced by casual texts and likes on each other's posts. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, Emily texted him, "Hey, we need to talk." A few minutes later, Ethan called. Their conversation was awkward but honest. "I feel like we're just going through the motions," Emily said. "We don't really talk anymore. We're just existing in each other's lives." Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I've been feeling the same way." And that was it. They ended things with a mutual understanding. No shouting, no tears. Just two people realizing they had outgrown each other. That night, as Emily ate her lukewarm pad thai alone, she felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Breaking up with Ethan had been inevitable, but it forced her to confront a bigger truth. She had been coasting through life, letting things happen to her instead of making them happen. She looked at her phone, still lighting up with notifications, emails, news alerts, texts from her coworkers. For the first time, she felt sick of it, all of it. Without thinking too much, she opened the settings on her phone and switched it to Do Not Disturb. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She grabbed a pen and a notebook and started writing. No filters, no hashtags, no likes. Just her thoughts, raw and unedited. Emily wrote down everything she had been feeling, her exhaustion with work, her frustration with superficial relationships, her longing for something real. Then she made a list of things she wanted to do, but had been putting off. 1. Take a weekend trip somewhere quiet. 2. Try cooking a real meal from scratch. 3. Learn to paint, even if I'm terrible at it. 4. Read a book without checking my phone every 5 minutes. 5. Volunteer at a local shelter.
6. Spend a whole day offline.
The list wasn't groundbreaking, but it was hers. It was a start. The following Saturday, Emily packed a small bag and drove 2 hours out of the city to a little cabin she had found online. It was nestled in the woods, surrounded by tall pines and a lake that shimmered in the afternoon sun. There was no Wi-Fi, no cell service, just silence. At first, it felt strange, almost unsettling. She kept reaching for her phone out of habit, only to remember it was off. But as the hours passed, she started to relax. She went for a hike, listened to the sound of birds and rustling leaves, and watched the sun set over the lake. That night, she cooked herself dinner, pasta with fresh vegetables, and ate it slowly, savoring each bite. For the first time in years, Emily felt present, truly present. When Emily returned to the city, she didn't go back to her old habits. She started setting boundaries at work, logging off at 6 p.m. every day. She signed up for a painting class at a local art studio and spent her weekends experimenting with bold colors and messy brushstrokes. She even volunteered at an animal shelter, walking dogs and cleaning kennels. The joy on the animals' faces reminded her of something she had forgotten. Life wasn't about perfection. It was about connection. One evening at the shelter, she met someone. His name was Leo, and he was another volunteer. He had kind eyes and a quiet sense of humor that made her laugh more than she had in months. They started talking over coffee after their shifts, and slowly, something sparked between them. But this time, Emily didn't rush it. She let it grow naturally, without the pressure of perfect photos or witty captions. Months passed, and Emily's life began to look very different. Her job was still there, but it no longer consumed her. She spent less time on her phone and more time in the real world, painting, volunteering, hiking, and sharing long, meaningful conversations with Leo. One day, as she sat in her tiny apartment, Emily realized she hadn't felt the urge to check her notifications in hours. The digital noise that had once filled her life had been replaced by something quieter, but far more fulfilling. She smiled and picked up her notebook, flipping to the last page where she had written her list. Every item was crossed off, except for one. She grabbed her pen and added a new item. Number 7. Keep going. And she did. Thank you for joining us on this journey through these heartfelt stories. We hope Maya, Marin, and Emily's experiences have inspired you to reflect, dream, and take small steps toward your own growth. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more beautiful tales that help you learn English, one word at a time. And let us know in the comments which story spoke to you the most. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep storytelling.
See you soon.